Nope, you should actually see everything through here. So
Okay.
even if people chat on the live
It goes
stream,
in
you'll see it.
comments.
Yep.
Nice.
So ink. Okay, I see us. I think it's good. Right. Okay, good. I hear us. Wait. Okay.
Oh, disaster.
Oh, what? What happened?
I was playing a Hunter versus Blood Demon Hunter, and they played the lifesteal weapon. So I'm losing. No, I'm not losing.
No.
Um,
Okay. All right, are we ready?
hang loose, dude. Let me move the. Let me set my camera up to this side so that I'm looking at you guys over here, so I don't look like an idiot. Um, this glare is not helping my baldness. Whatever.
Fine. All right. Are you ready, Based?
I am.
Okay, perfect. All right. Welcome to episode 11 of the TCCG Roundtable. We're your hosts, dragonrider and Itachi, joined this week by the wonderful and lovely basedinc. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. Now, this is our first episode of 2023, by the way. Yay, New Year!
Also, Happy New Year. Yes.
Yeah. So we usually like to start out with like a little bit of behind the scenes and kind of getting to know our guest a bit. So first, we would like to know, can you please tell everyone, tell us kind of about your history with card games? Like what got you into cards? What card games have you played? I know we were talking about that a little bit before we went live. And what do you do involving card games? Like, do you do any content stuff? Do you go to tournaments? What all is it that you've kind of done or currently do with cards in general?
Yeah. Okay. So I started with Pokemon, which had no idea. Just got the cards. They were shiny and fun. And then the first game I actually played was Yu-Gi-Oh! I still remember going to my first tournament. Literally just every card that I had, which of course I read the rules and I took out the extra Monster Reborns and had only 3 of each. But every other card I had in a deck, good like 4-inch tall deck to the tournament. And then somebody's like, "Hey, you should really have less." So they actually got me a bunch of staples out of like their extras and like helped me reduce that. And so that was like the first time I ever played a tournament. But Yu-Gi-Oh is like the main thing I played for a long time. Still love Yu-Gi-Oh. I have a cube that I built that I play with friends whenever I see them, and recently played a bit of Master Duel. But after Yu-Gi-Oh, that was like didn't really play much card games until Hearthstone came out, and immediately hooked with Hearthstone. That's been playing it since. Started the second month of the official release. And I've tried a bunch of other ones. I've tried like Faria, Eternal, Shadowverse. There was like one I had on iOS that I really enjoyed that was quite similar to Hearthstone, but like had a much more focus on your hero as well. I have no idea what that game is called, but I played that for a little bit. And like now, mostly what I do is Hearthstone, occasionally, Master Duel when I try it out. And I really like board games, especially deck building board games. So that is one of my favorite things. And then as far as like what I do, I am on the board for THL. So, help make sure that is running all fine. And that's mostly what I do. Maybe in the future, I'll get into the Pokemon trading card game. I think I'd like to play a physical card game, and that's kind of a nice, affordable one, and is something that I still love as far as what it's about. So that's kind of everything about me and card games.
Love it. Oh, well, it's hot. Oh, by the way, can you like tell people who might not know what THL is?
Yeah, THL is Team Hearth League. We're back to a league. So if you go to teamhearthleague.com, it has all the stuff to sign up. We do series where you join a team with 4 other players, and you'll match up with another team, and each player will just play an individual event or match. Best of 5 Hearthstone on a schedule that works for them. So we try and make it nice and easy for you to do that, and we have it at all skill levels. So we have one where you purchase players, and the players get a rating. So that way, the teams are built to be balanced, where they have, their best player at the top, and then, ranked down. And so they match up with other teams, and you play the appropriate seed there. And so we do that for both last year's standing format and Conquest. And then we also have some open list ones that are anything goes. So just any players, and those are typically a little bit more what's the word, higher level of competition, and it is first and foremost a community focused league. So we want to make sure you're having a good time, and then also getting good competition out of it. So that is what I really enjoy about it. Is it's a nice community that makes playing the game fun. So that's what THL is.
And of course, we all love and have participated in THL here, Dawn and myself included. Mm-hmm. Moving towards just like one of my focuses is I love to hear people brag about themselves. So do you have anything that you want to like brag about in terms of you in the card game universe? Like you've done something that you just love. I know that I've played against you before, and you are a phenomenal Hearthstone player. So I only assumed that you were phenomenal at other games that you played. So do you have anything that you are like, I did this thing and I love the fact that I did this thing? It didn't have to be anything like large, but just anything at all.
Yeah. I did qualify for one of the Master Tour events in 2021. Yep, that was the year. It kind of was unfortunate because it was around the time I was moving, doing a big cross state. Couldn't give it the same time I wanted to, but that was like my goal with Hearthstone. And then separately, what was dueling? No, what was the like simulation Yu-Gi-Oh one?
Not Duel Links.
The where it was online and you had to like manually do everything, but you could
Dueling Book.
Dueling Book, yeah. So one of the last things when I couldn't afford cards, but I was like, I still want to play. I played the books, like spell books, without. It was after Judgment was banned, so it's like reasonably balanced. I played one with World of Prophecy, and I went like 40-1 in matches on there. It was just like an insane streak. It was all best of 3 and stuff, but it was just really fun. So I laddered with that, and that's probably the best streak I've ever had. It was something. It couldn't have been 40 because that's ridiculous, but it was really high.
Yo, I believe it. I totally believe it was 40, and that's an absurd number.
Sure, yeah,
it's like a lot.
It was it was definitely like over 20. I know that one for sure. I thought I remember it being something ridiculous like that, but that was like one of my favorite decks. I love toolbox decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, so like Spellbooks was probably my all-time favorite deck there.
Ugh, probably my all-time least favorite deck. I'm gonna find a way to bring this up every podcast, but that deck stopped me from going to Japan for the World Championship.
No.
And I will never forgive it. But in order to, because I appreciate you as a person, we'll still link your socials in the YouTube description and in the show notes for all of our audio listeners, and we'll plug them at some point later on in the show so that people can find the person who likes spellbooks and badger them. Dawn, moving on to the news.
Ratbox also.
Yeah, let's talk about some news. It still is, I feel like, slightly slow compared to kind of what we were having, towards the end of November and early December, late November, early December. I don't know what I said there, but
sometime last year.
Yeah, towards the end of the year. So still like slightly slow news, but we do have a couple of expansions coming up this month. Which is the Eternal expansion, Behemoths of Theros, coming January 18th. And then the Pokemon TCG Crown Zenith, or Crown Zenith. I'm not sure exactly how that is said there, but that is coming January 20th. We have an article linked. They are showing some stuff there, some new like V-Star and VMAX stuff going on. Seems like people are pretty excited for that, what's coming. And there has also been a ton of Battle Spirit Saga card reveals all over Twitter. Like, they've been revealing cards like almost daily now. I know we've talked about this one a bit, but Battle Spirit Saga is one of the card games that is completely launching this year. It's coming out in the spring. So they've been kind of ramping up. It looked like when I was looking around that they had a core set, kind of, expansion, a set that's going to be launching, as well as their first actual set, which is called History of Dawn. And that is what they've been like revealing. Yeah, I know. Of my name. Whoa. But they've been revealing a ton of cards and showing stuff. So lots of things happening there. They are really ramping up for that spring launch. So definitely something to keep an eye out. And I know we talked about they have committed to a $1 million prize pool. Yeah. So very, very exciting. Them and Flesh and Blood both are in the $1 million prize pooling for the year. So lots of money in there to be had. And it's going to be pretty exciting to look at that and try things out, as that launches. I'm going to get in on it early, but I'm not really sure if there's anything else like outstanding that's that like I feel like we need to talk about for news this week.
Just a question. So
Yeah.
The Eternal expansion, so two things. One, I love that there's like a mood kitty in our background. I don't want it to go away by any means. I just love the fact that it's there. Because that it's soothing. There's just something about a soft meow that's very soothing to me. Second, so someone show appreciation for that. Second, Eternal's expansion is called Behemoths of Theros. I thought in my head, in this pea brain of mine, that Theros was a Greek mythology because I've heard the term Theros for so long. But no, Theros is actually the Magic the Gathering expansion, and it takes its notes from Greek and Roman mythology, I believe. But no, it's just literally from Magic the Gathering, the word Theros. Or is it? Wait.
I messed it up. Hold on. I know. I was like, did I mess it up? Okay, because let me look at this. All right. It's Behemoths of Thera.
Whoops. I would have never known. I just was
no. Theros was, you're right. But there was an expansion pretty recently, I guess, or somewhat recently, in Magic that was Theros. And I'm totally getting them confused. And you know why? Because I was thinking about the fact that there is a new Magic set coming out like early February. And I was like, no, I don't need to include it like this week. We'll include it later. And so I typed it.
Fair enough.
Oh, it's the start of the year. Can I be tired? Is that?
Yeah, you can definitely be tired. As a matter of fact, I'll take it from here. No, I'm joking. But so talking about competitive and organized play, there's not too much going on, but things are starting to peak in. We're going to start seeing a lot of ways to qualify for the big things that are going to happen later this year, starting in the early part of the year. So Flesh and Blood Pro Quest Season 3 runs from the 14th to the 29th of January. And the winners of the Pro Quest events will qualify for Pro Tour number 3. So that's Flesh and Blood. That is Dawn's Pride and Joy game right there. And I hope to see Dawn qualifying for a Pro Tour. Still waiting for the Hearthstone 2023 competitive news. We were given an announcement about an announcement about an announcement, and then we've gotten an announcement of an announcement, and now we're just waiting for the announcement. That's kind of
You're not
typical.
wrong.
That's kind of typical for Hearthstone. Usually it's just the double announcement there, announcement squared. Now we're announcement cubed. So we're in the third phase of the cube here. Marble Snap's cool. Anyway, segues are neat. January ladder will count for something for both standard and battlegrounds. That is something that Abar himself tweeted. He said top 100 will be worth something. The higher you finish within top 100, it will be worth more, end quote. And noted that the top 100 applies to both standard and battlegrounds players. So that gives you something to shoot for on ladder. I definitely didn't think it would be so expansive in terms of how many spaces we're going to count for something, but because top 100 is a lot of people. That also means it means ladder will be very competitive. Especially once you get into legend ranks. So if your MMR is not fixed, you're too late, i.e. me. So
yeah, okay. I wanted to ask both of your opinions on this, as also people who have, I think both of you have had incredible like high ladder play for Hearthstone. For me, when I kind of hear the top 100, but then says the higher you finish within top 100, to me, I feel like that kind of signifies a point-based thing, or that they're going to say like, oh, this certain amount of people will qualify like, 2 levels above, and like maybe, top whatever will finish and like get qualified for the next up thing. But maybe a point style system will be coming back. I'm not sure, but what do you two think about that? Like, am I reading too much into the fact that like top 100, but like the higher up, or I don't know. What do you think?
No, because if you're grinding for instance, Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship points, you get points for top finishes in Yu-Gi-Oh! And at the end of the season, there's a top cut, like a top points earner playoffs. And the way that it works is if you play in a regional or higher level event, you get points based on the number of participants. So, for instance, a regional with 400 people, the top 32 people will get points, with number 1 getting 32 points, number 2 getting 31, and so on down the line. Does that make sense? So, like, equivalent to the number of people starting from the top going backwards. That's how many points you earn. Same thing with like championship level events. It's just according to the number of people that participate. So you get points in that way. And that seems like kind of the direction they could be going, where maybe the person who finishes rank 1 gets 100 points, and the person who finishes rank 100 gets 1 point, and it counts towards something. And you need a certain amount of points to qualify. So that could definitely be something.
And didn't Hearthstone used to do it that way? Like each tier of like where you finished on ladder would get you points for the month, and then also they had like those daily like super grindy tournaments that would get you points, and then like the top X number of players qualified for the tour stop that was coming up each thing.
I don't think ladder was points though. I think like just a straight rank like finish on ladder was a cutoff, and then I think they had like the qualifying tournaments and stuff that you got points.
You mean like back when they were playoffs?
Yeah, back when they had like this, like the playoffs, because it was like 2018, 2019. It would be like people were both grinding ladder for points there based on where they finished. They would get it, and then also they had the daily tournaments where like for the month, if you finished first in one of those tournaments, you got the max amount of points through the tournament. So people would just grind until they got first.
I'll be honest, I don't know, because that ladder system, the way that they had that point system set up was so ambiguous. I have no idea how it used to work. I qualified through one of those stupid little grindy tournaments, so I have no idea how it works.
Yeah, those, because I remember it being like brutal back then. I think like the highest I got second in one of those to lead paint. If you remember that player.
I do remember lead paint. Yep.
Yeah, really good player. Smoked.
Yeah.
But like, I remember those tournaments were brutal, and I remember people like talking about how awful that grind was, because it was just like grind those tournaments, grind the ladder every single month. I don't imagine they'll go as hard and never bring back those tournaments. They'll probably keep doing how they do their quals.
Because then you had to win. Back then, I don't know how that system worked. You had to win 2 separate tournaments. Well, you had to win one,
Okay.
and then that put you in another tournament that you had to top like 4, which is what I had to do. I had to win one and then top 4 another.
Yeah. So okay, I just googled and found the like announcement post back from, it was December of 17. So it was announcing the esports system for Hearthstone for 2018. And I found here they did have a ranked ladder breakdown. So I was wrong. I thought it was just a straight cutoff, which I think they did afterwards. But it was like first, like rank 1 legend on ladder got 16 points. 2 through 25 got 15, 26 through 50, and like so on. And then they had even 1,000 plus. So basically, if you hit legend, you got 1 point. Yeah. So not like a huge difference in points there. I mean, top 200, like between 100 and 200 was 6 points. Rank 1 was 16. So like that seems kind of like not that big of a point difference to me. If you're looking at, I think in here they said the target for season 1 was 45 points to qualify. So like maybe that could have been big, but yeah, then they had tour stops, they had seasonal championships and the playoffs, and then world championships.
Yeah, there was such a grindy one. I imagine they'll do something where it's like you get points for it, and then like I'm sure like the points might actually just factor in the whole year is what they might go for. So like getting a number 1 finish might be a way to qualify towards the world championship instead of just Master Tour. Like it might be that where it's like, hey, here's the cutoff to get to Masters Tour, and then here's also the points you got for your ladder season. Maybe do a little bit of a mix there. Try it, because that seems like the goal they're doing is getting it so it's anyone can get to the world champ now. You know, as they go away from Grandmasters.
Yeah, I know I don't really envy the decisions they have to make, because for me it's like there's such a fine line between making it way too grindy, but also not making it open enough in terms of like, you know, like how do you have it where it feels like enough people can qualify and show that they're good without it just feeling like everybody qualifies. And I don't know, like, so I definitely don't envy that position of trying to actually figure all of this out and set that up, and you know, to see all of these different card games. Like we talked about Battle Spirits Saga with the, you know, and Flesh and Blood with the $1 million prize pools. Azalea, which we've had on as a guest as well, he's talking in chat, says like it reminds a little bit of Magic, you know, qualifiers and stuff as well. A lot of the games use similar systems, right, where they kind of have a lot of different things. Itachi was just talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh play. So I wouldn't really be surprised to see them go to something like that, but it's also kind of interesting, I think, we've kind of talked about this before, like that difference of online, which Hearthstone is purely online, right, like in terms of the play, versus events that you would have to go to. And maybe they're going to go back to in-person events, but they can have this system where they add in ladder qualifying too. And it seems pretty I guess common sense or expected that they would you know, say, hey, like ladder qualifies, because that's such an integral part of the online aspect of the game.
Yeah.
I just want Seat Story to come back. Those were the best tournaments. Those are so fun to watch.
Those were fun.
Seat Story and Strivewire were awesome.
Yeah.
The last thing we had on competitive play, I know we took a little bit of a tangent there, was the Pokemon TCG and VGC regionals event start this weekend. I know there's one in Knoxville, Tennessee for sure near me, and I know there's a bunch across the country. So definitely going to be something that I'm going to end up getting roped into. Also, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series starts this coming month in February in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll be attending that event, and so that'll be something to look forward to as well. And I think that's it for competitive news this week. So we want to talk about, so today's roundtable topic is one that should not be as contentious as it is. It should not be as up for debate as it is. But this is the world we live in. So it's kind of one of the things that's necessary to have the conversation about, and it's acceptance and diversity across gaming. So recently, well, not even recently, historically, the gaming community has been pretty diverse. It hasn't been a what I would call a safe haven or lack thereof for any one specific group, where just like the hangout is, except for guys, it's very dominated by males. But there's a lot of different races, different cultures that all indulge in gaming, and still somehow a lot of people still feel a lack of acceptance in the gaming community. Now, that's not to say that this is not one of the most accepting communities, but it just kind of goes to show you where we are as a society when we have 3 represented minorities here with us now, me being a Black male, Dawn being a woman, and Vase being a trans woman. Those are all discriminated against subcategories. And we see people, and I'm not a messy person, but like, to be quite frank, the recent resurgence and acceptance of Orange back into the Hearthstone community is a little bit alarming, when certain people who have done no such deeds and committed no such crimes, which what he does was a literal crime, have struggled to be accepted across the gaming community, with myself being a shining example, because I was afraid to come into the game. I was afraid to come into Hearthstone when I watched Terrence M play Hearthstone on stream and get called all types of names based on the color of his skin, something that he cannot and did not control. It actually almost deterred me from playing Hearthstone altogether to see such a thing. And every time I see a female, whether it be a new caster or a player or an all-female event, there's always something in the comments that's derogatory. And not to say that trolls aren't trolls, because on the internet, trolls are trolls. It doesn't matter who you are. If you play bad, people are going to troll you. But the thing is that, like, if you want to troll somebody because they're not playing at the highest level, okay, that's one thing that can be helped. And those are decisions that a person is making. But if you're going to troll and be spewing hate speech and hateful rhetoric towards a person based on something that they cannot and did not control, which is what they identify as, which is what their skin color is, which is what their gender is, whether you agree with it or not, it is kind of one of the most disrespectful and disgusting things that I think happens constantly in the gaming community. Because a lot of these people, and I know I'm going off kind of on my own here, but I'll give you guys just a second. A lot of people feel so comfortable hiding behind a keyboard and a screen that they feel like these are things that are acceptable to say. And I feel like there's got to be some kind of policy or more mediation put in place by the progenitors of the gaming community that we are in. If I log into any Hearthstone event and I see people saying all these things in a chat about a person, and there are no mods, there's no moderation, there's no timing out, there's no banning, these people are just freely saying these things, spamming them over and over, that's not okay. It's not okay when someone who was a large part of the Hearthstone community commits some pretty egregious acts and gets immediately, or not even immediately, I won't say it's been immediate because it hasn't been, but gets accepted back in on what grounds, while other people, like I said, are struggling so much for basic acceptance. I find it hard to fathom, but I understand, coming from the position that I'm in, exactly where we're at as a society and as a community, and that just kind of hurts.
And like, it just takes away from so much. Like, Terrence won that DreamHack, right?
He did.
And like, I struggle to remember that because I just remember having to like turn away from chat. Like, I think I even closed the stream.
The stream, I did.
Because yeah, that one was probably one of the most egregious examples in Hearthstone stream, which by the way, Terrence M won like a couple Master Duel tournaments when they were first coming out because I was really paying on that. I was like, is that? No way. Yeah, and it was the same Terrence M. Like he stopped playing Hearthstone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably like that was his breakout. He should have been then like, you know, one of the stars of the tour after that. And
100%.
that wasn't the case. And yeah, it's just like it's so frustrating to have like people who are going to support streamers that are, you know, committing abuse or allowing for abusive chats. Because like, yeah, Hearthstone itself needs to have better moderation just in general on theirs. In particular, like it's, you know, or like when Liv is, you know, showing off the expansion, it's just like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. Like can't mute a chat fast enough in those situations, and it has to come from the community refusing to accept those things. Like, you know, Orange can try and platform himself, but if he has no audience, you know, that's it. And that's like what really needs to happen if people want to actually, you know, be supportive, because of acceptancy and, you know, in the community, it has to be done that way. Like, yeah, we can't accept, you know, people who are discriminatory or commit crimes. Like it's just get them out. Like, and it's really frustrating to see that that's just not the way we're going. And that's especially because it's the hobby, right? Like this is what we do to be ourselves and like have a good time. So like this is the most upsetting place for it to be, because in the workplace you have the protections. Like they just, you know, they don't allow it, or if they do, they're opening themselves to some serious lawsuits. So it's like we come to this place to be ourselves, have a good time, make friends, and then, you know, just a couple spaces over, you got somebody throwing out slurs at every which way, and they don't, you know, care. And it's just like really frustrating. So I don't know. I'm spiraling. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
No, you're good. I have a question for the both of you. Have you ever, Dawn, you or Base, you ever come up against any pitfalls or challenges or lack of acceptance throughout, like visible lack of acceptance throughout anything that you've done?
Oh yeah. I have a perfect example actually. Was I think last, or I don't want to say last week, but our last episode that we recorded, right? We talked about some of our previous accolades, and I shared a story about it was DreamHack Atlanta in November of 2018. And I got to go kind of like in the quote unquote like backstage area, do an interview that was broadcast right before that event, you know, or shortly before that event. I actually had joined my first team, which was Broken Alliance. I joined, you know, BXA. I had joined them and, you know, met the owner and stuff at that tournament. I'd gotten my jersey, so I was wearing my jersey and talked about that a little bit during that interview. And I still remember like when that interview broadcast and was looking, it was on Twitch. Yeah, lots of really, really terrible comments in chat, you know, about how clearly and this is going to be maybe a little bit harsh, so ready yourselves. Things like I must have gotten down on my knees in order to have gotten on a team, and just a ton of like, you know, kind of very sexual, disgusting things like that. And it's like, you don't even, like, these people don't even know who we are. Like, they don't know the work that I had put in, you know, to even get noticed, or, you know, what was going on. Like, they knew nothing, and their instinct, their immediate reaction was just to start spewing that it was very clear to them that I must have done some sexual act to actually get on a team, instead of looking at potential achievements or the, you know, like, bluntly, the fucking work that I put in to get there.
For sure.
You know, so like and that's I feel like that's actually fairly mild for some of this stuff, which is terribly, terribly sad and just absolutely like unacceptable. But I will say on that same side, I also shared that at that same thing, I also did have people who reached out to me about how much that interview meant to them, how like they felt inspired. So there is that hate, but there's also things that people can do to kind of also combat and be very accepting. So I would also like to talk about things that people can do to be accepting, but I want to hear from basedinc on like before we tangent and go to like that side of things.
And I have not, and I'm so fortunate for that. Like my experience with the Hearthstone community specifically, because I like to stay in my little corner, has been THL, and and that's something that they have consciously and really specifically have cultivated. Right, they don't allow that in there. Right, we do want to make sure that there's no harassment like that in THL, and for people who have been there for a while, it wasn't always that way. It's something that has to be fixed and worked on, right? They had some issues a while ago. Like when I joined the league, I just was playing, didn't really know anybody, and I was writing an article where I would predict pro matches. Just didn't know any of the players. I'll be honest with you. I just looked and I was like, 14-13. Yeah. Made up a bunch of stuff, just kind of threw out names and stuff because it's all about the flourish. I don't need to know these players to actually predict their match overall. It was just fun and people enjoyed it. But like on my third or fourth article, I reached out to Hat and I was like, hey, is this a safe place? Can I come out and be myself? Because I'd like to do more. I don't really want to be on cam because I'm not comfortable the way I look. Being unable to transition yet, but being able to be myself and be honest about that in this community is out of place. And he goes, we've had issues before, but he broke it down and really was like, yes, if you want to, we're going to be 100% behind you. I didn't really know anybody. This was one of my first one-on interactions with Ridiculous Hat. If anybody knows the community space, you probably know who
everyone knows.
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
But yeah, just that confirmation and being like, yeah, go for it. We have your back. That's the important thing that people have to give to people to make spaces and really focus and then do it. Stand by it. I'd never got anything back. I know that there are people who disagree with that, but it was never something that they felt like they could say anything about because of the space that had been created. Even if somebody personally disagreed with that or disagrees with gender science and wants to pretend something else is the reality of the world, they just knew that wasn't a space for them to voice that, and I am forever thankful for that. That has it's even been a help to me in my transition. So yeah.
Speaking of spaces in THL and okay, story time.
Let's go.
So, do you guys know the history of F2L? I assume Base does.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Kind of, sort of. Okay.
FTL, I believe, is what you're talking about.
FTL, the original FTL.
Yeah.
So the way that situation went was kind of like a turning point, I felt like, for THL, in the way that people felt okay to act, because I think that the FTL people, as F2L now, people made it to where it was not a safe space to be an ugly person towards anyone in a discriminatory way. There were a group of people, names I don't care to name because some of those people are still around, and I think some of those people have genuinely changed. But there were a group of people who were in a voice call and said ugly things about a woman who played Hearthstone, and a woman who I happen to know. And the members of the team that I was on at the time got wind of it, and this was before FTL was the thing. When we got wind of it, we made it a very big deal. We talked about it. We called them out. We put their names on blast. We put the list of people who were in the voice chat. We basically introduced that accountability piece of, you're not just going to bully someone and it be okay, and this be some locker room where you berate people in this league. Even if it's your team server, that team server is a team because of THL. So don't feel like you can be a part of this league and be that kind of a person and that be acceptable. Somehow, and I do believe that was a turning point for the standard of THL. Mm-hmm. Haters will say it's Photoshop. But what I didn't understand after that was that somehow that team became villainous, quote unquote, where it was like it was the team to hate. And in some ways, it's still like that. And maybe it's because everybody hates a winner and we always win. So that's a little bit of F2L/FTL history. I won't go into the nomenclature or the acronym of FTL or F2L. So it is forgot to lose. That is what it stands for. And FTL stood for Frisbees, Teens, and Lawyers. So we will just say that.
I mean, I thought Icon did, say embrace the villain narrative as like your slogan when it was starting out as like a fun thing. But yeah, I don't think any of the because I do agree that was the turning point, and that was the thing that Hat told me about. Of course, that was before I was in THL. I came in like a month or two after. One of the people involved actually got banned from THL going into the finals of a series that I was in, and so I ended up playing Liquidox instead for the finals instead of playing somebody else. Liquidox smoked me. But again, it went a lot. Liquidox is one of the premier members of F2L and FTL. But yeah, I think that there's no and I think that F2L did a great thing by doing that. That's what you got to do. And I think that even changed some of the leadership. There was I know at a point somebody was talking about stepping down, and they actually were like, no, actually we're going to fix this instead. I don't want to hand off the league. People who are doing that, I don't know how much has been said about that, but I have been told that some people on the board were considering stepping down and kind of moving away, but that woke them up and went, no, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make this right. And we're going to move forward from this. And that it has to be a conscious choice. FTL came together as a conscious choice to say, no, this is not okay. And defend her. And that started it. It sparked the whole thing. And so that has been hugely helpful. And now F2L is one of the mainstay, the original, what's the word?
The mainstay is like a franchise. Yeah, franchise.
Yeah, franchise. Yeah, now we have APM doing it, ET, Trito starting. So, it even changed just how teams get together. So it's been kind of fun to see how that works and seeing the cross-series collaboration that the teams do.
Also, teamheartleague.com, go to the shop, buy you some F2L merch, support a good cause.
Buy HFA merch.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I think this is kind of a good pivot point as well to also kind of talk about some things that people can do in the community. And it doesn't even have to be a big thing. I mean, I feel like if you're saying, hey, instead of handing things over, I'm going to step up and help get things fixed, that's for many people, that might be a big thing. That might be a big step. But there's small things that you can do to help people feel accepted, even if you're in communities, whether you're just in a chat room or if you go to an in-person event. One perfect example of this is at that same event that I mentioned earlier, where I did that interview and had those nasty, terrible comments made about me, was also one of the events where I felt at the same time the most respected and accepted from my
Hmm.
fellow competitors. And that was in large part thanks to, I'll say, two players specifically. Peltier, who I don't think even
Yeah,
plays Hearthstone anymore.
I remember
Yeah.
Peloton.
And
Yeah.
Language Hacker, who still is, like, I would say, a pretty prominent personality and person in the Hearthstone community.
Hmm.
But both of them, they kind of, knew about me a little bit. Peltier and I, had kind of gone way back. We'd played against each other in some other tournaments. But when we met in person, they reached out, they shook my hand, they treated me like an equal as a competitor. Even if they thought, wow, she's a terrible player, they didn't say that or they didn't act like it, but all they did was like, hey, or if I played against them, played against other opponents, it was like shake the hand, like good luck. And there was just that like mutual respect as a competitor. And I think like that's such an easy thing that people can do. Like, even if you end up being like, wow, that person's a terrible player, or like, oh, whatever, like, why are they even at this tournament? Like Base said, like, first, many people, even going to a local tournament or a Friday Night Magic or something like that, like, that's what they do to enjoy their time. They might have a job that they really don't like, and like that's kind of their release to get out and go do something that takes the stress out of their job or a terrible family life, or something. So just like even acknowledging that, like, hey, they're another person who's also here competing, or they're just here playing and they're gonna have fun. Doesn't matter if they're a bad player or a great player. Like, just it's really easy to just respect somebody as another player, as somebody else that's also there in the same room.
Hmm. Um, I guess on that topic of it's easy to everyone has a voice and everyone can make an impact. Um, and you get to choose. Every person gets to choose whether that's going to be positive or negative. The way that I grew up was in I grew up in a space where if you were like an athletic person, you were one of the people who were kind of like you made fun of people who weren't maybe as fortunate or as gifted or as talented. And if you were a card game, like you played Yu-Gi-Oh at the lunch table or play Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or something like that, you were the ones that got made fun of. And I happen to be a part of both subsets. So I became this odd combination of the person who bullied the people that bullied the people who were like me. And so like standing up to people who are on the same level as me because we're both athletes and we both have this kind of jock whole ordeal going on. And then also I'm a person who's going to play Pokemon or who's going to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and so you're not going to bully those people. And I think it's kind of carried through my entire life where I could be in the space with the people who feel like they're above someone and also be the one who they feel like they're above. Does that make sense? So yeah, bully the bullies. And I am not scared. I will embarrass someone. I am not scared to let you know how ignorant you're being. Not to say that I haven't had my own moments of human ignorance, because I have. Um, but there's just certain things you gotta stand up for. You gotta stand up for what's acceptable and what's okay. And I think that myself, and I think that a lot of the members of CHL, especially the board members, I appreciate them so much because they are so very willing to step up and stand up for what's correct and what's right, except for when someone submitted decks for me a long time ago. But that was a different story. Different story.
Whole different thing.
But yeah, so I really appreciate the insight that you two have had to offer. Um, Dawn, I could I could understand the emotion that you had behind the experience that you had, and how I don't know that a lot of people recognize just how lasting those effects are when they do something that they probably dismiss as trivial, right? I'm sure those people, typed those messages and went on their merry way to harass someone else, I'm sure. And for you, though, that left a long lasting effect that you have had to continue to deal with, continue to remember. And I'm sure that gives you anxiety every time you appear on camera, and yet you still do it fearlessly. So that is something that I respect and appreciate about you. So just know that there is pride there for you, and that I'm glad that that experience didn't define who you were or stop you from continuing to pursue things where you were in the face of the camera and you were on screen, and you still kicking butt.
Thank you. Well, it is impacting, and I think there was a time where I actually had to make a decision. Very much kind of in the same vein as you said, your experience seeing, even just like not even competing yet or doing that, but seeing Terrence on how, he was treated, it made you not even want to compete. Kind of after all of that, I had to make a decision and say, is this something I even want to continue doing? Because there was a little point where I thought, F that, I don't want to deal with this. And I almost just like dropped it all and stopped. But instead I decided, and this isn't to say like, oh, everyone else should always make this choice. No, like that's absolutely not it either, because sometimes you got to do what's best for you. And if not being around people like that and putting yourself in those situations is best for you, absolutely do that. But for me, it was like you know what, I am going to take this and turn it into how can I make this community, how can I make the people around me, how can I make, those things better, not only for myself, but for other people. And ultimately, I think that was also a huge launching point for me creating AFG. Like, I wanted it from the start. It was like, I knew going in, that is going to be a team that is diverse. It is going to be an accepting and open team. And like from the get-go, I was like, this is not just going to be like an all white, like kind of, crew. Like, no, that's, and also there are so many people who like, I can see their like talent and their potential. And it's so devastating to me that the world around them has made them not see it for themselves. And I think another reason why I see it so much is because I've had those experiences too, where it's like those people clearly didn't see like my potential. And you know what? Since then, I've now been on the Blizzard broadcast twice casting competitive games. So like I went from that where I talked about my first time hitting Legend. I was so excited. And that was my first in-person tournament, to being invited to cast on the official broadcast desk. Like, those people can't say that same thing, So it's just something that there is a lot of crap, and I'm very, very grateful myself that you, Itachi, have not, like, that you didn't, avoid Hearthstone and quit playing it, because I'm grateful to have you as a friend and somebody that I know in my life. So like for me, I'm like, I got to meet you, and like that, that's huge. And people like Based. I mean, Based is not like super involved on socials, but I've learned so much from Based, like in game and looking at THL stuff. I'm like, dang, like I want to be more involved and so awesome, like both of you and so many people, that I think people just it's that very like surface level, they just see your skin color, right? Or they just see the gender or the sex that you appear to look, and nobody digs deeper. But when you do, and you really get to start to know people around you or know people in the communities, it's like, wow, that person is freaking awesome, or like they worked their ass off, to do the things that they do, or to have the achievements and things that they do. So it's amazing.
When you get it to like a certain level when a person gets to a certain level of entitlement, it's really difficult to get them to recognize someone else's gift or talent, or even blind luck, because you can't do that when you're jealous and when you feel like that was your entitled place, when you felt like you were supposed to be on the Blizzard broadcast, or you were supposed to be on a team, or you were supposed to be one of the most winning people in THL history. Hello. It's hard to not be jealous about that. Also, you got to know that these people suck. Also, you just you got to know that they are going to get on ladder and they are going to try to play Miracle Rogue, and they are going to play their Sinstone Graveyard, and they're going to click it, and then they're going to play 17 cards, and they're going to have a 1/1 stealth, and that's what's going to happen in their life, and then they're going to say that they got high rolled. So it's got to be. I feel worse for them for having to feel that way about someone like me, or you, or Based, than I feel about being talked about in that way. I feel worse for them for having to feel that, because that shit gotta suck.
I feel no pity for them. They should die.
You wait.
Okay, maybe not die, just live a life of misfortune.
Well, hey, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. This was a great conversation. It was really, really, really uplifting in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of the stuff that we said was like not great stuff to hear, but like to resolve it all and to be where we are still, and to be, sitting here us three together on YouTube and on multiple platforms creating a podcast. This speaks volume to, I haven't heard anyone. I know and remember some of the names. I guarantee I know who Base was talking about that got banned. I had a very terribly contentious relationship with that person. We did not meet eye to eye. We butt heads all the time. That was one of those types of. I also beat that person every time I see them on ladder for that reason. I crack they shit every time. Anyway, I just appreciate what you guys have brought to the table and what you've contributed, and it makes me feel a little bit better to know that A, I'm not alone, B, I'm not worse off because of someone random on the computer behind the screen and keyboard's opinion. Not that I thought that anyway. And C, that we can hear that, we can see that, we can experience that, and we can still end up at a much better place overall. So appreciate the willingness for you guys to talk about this topic, and because I introduced it literally 45 seconds before we hit go live. So
yeah,
thank you.
I think
as
and I don't want to speak for Based, but we'll get her closing thought here in just a second too. But like, yeah, you introduced it, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, we can talk about that. Like, this is just like part of our lives that we've had to experience, and it, like you said, kind of endure through. Like, it's not a stranger to sexist comments or sexist behavior. Like, it's something that does need to be talked about for sure. And we're not going to sit here and say, oh, just like have a thick skin. Like, I hate that. No, like, it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
It's something we got to talk about.
I just want to tell you about one specific moment in Hearthstone esports history when Lion had the most dominant world championship run I think we've ever seen. She maybe dropped like a handful of games.
Yeah.
And then she took time in her winners interview to dunk on some moron who told her she shouldn't have been in a tournament. It's classic. Oh my gosh. I hope that guy felt such an idiot. World champ took time to dunk on you specifically for your dumb sexist comment.
That real quick, and I hate to interrupt you, but that's something that's kind of, I don't want to do so much anymore when I think about it, like as I reach the top, because that gives people incentive to, like, attention seeking people who just want to be the center. I want to talk about the people who were there. I want to talk about the people who supported and gave love, because that's what I want to encourage. I don't want to encourage people to talk shit just so that I can talk about them, because they don't deserve that kind of energy and that kind of effort. Now, I am saying that I'm glad VK did it, because she definitely deserved to get up there and yam on somebody like that.
Yeah, that was a really great moment. That was a very fun tournament, and then as Luna pointed out later, a woman was going to win that either way, and so she was kind of quietly enjoying that little secret to herself. But that was a great World Championship. I really enjoyed that whole thing. VK Lion took down KC in semis, if I remember correctly. There, like another insane player. Just such a dominant win. And I do not remember the chat. I don't think I had it open. To be honest, I think I had it on the big screen and just knew better at that time. So hopefully it wasn't terrible, but for me, that is the best moment in Hearthstone esports ever.
It was very 50-50. I will say that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was my favorite World Championship to watch, oddly enough. And normally I'm like a 3-0 finals. Oh man. But like I was like a 3-0 finals. Yeah, that was dope.
Yeah. And that meta was just very fun as well. There was everything going well for that.
Yeah. An incredibly emotional finish to that tournament for a lot of people. I was one of them. Like, especially doing I'm even getting emotional just like reliving it in my head, but when she was giving that speech, like I know I was certainly not alone in losing it and and crying a lot when she won.
Was that 2019?
It was right before 2020.
Yeah.
That was the last live World Championship, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So she, and I don't think Hearthstone will ever return to live, maybe live World Championships eventually, but like maybe that's the last live. And oh man, I cried so much with that interview. Yeah, absolutely. It was so good.
So if all, as I used to hear all the time, if all hearts and minds are clear, would everyone like to move to the lightning round?
Take us to the speed.
Let's do it.
Based. This is the lightning round. We're going to ask you a series of 4 questions. There's going to be a surprise question at the end that you're not going to know anything about, and I'm going to ask it randomly. You're just going to give us some gut reactions to those questions and tell us what the first thing that comes to your mind is. It's kind of like an inkblot test, except we're talking about card games. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. If you were a card from any of the card games that you've played, which one would you be?
Just for you, Sky Striker Ace, Ray.
Oh, Ray is Bay.
I love Sky Strikers. So much fun.
All right. Next question is, what is your favorite type or archetype of deck to play?
I love the toolbox like thing where you're able to search and like find specific answers from your deck at specific times, which isn't really something that's available in Hearthstone, but like Yu-Gi-Oh is definitely something that's been around for a long time. And that's always my favorite way to play.
Blech. Anyway, what's one goal you have for yourself in the card game sphere?
I don't know. I'd like to go back to another Masters Tour, maybe. I don't know if I'll ever want to compete the same intensity of Hearthstone. I would like to make my own like board game, essentially, out of cards eventually. I think that would be something really fun. Just me and my friends to play, get a little creative with that. So that's probably the overarching goal there.
That's a sweet goal. I love that. If you need any play testers, like
okay,
I'm available.
You're a car drive away.
Yeah. Oh, we do live pretty close. Yeah,
we do.
All right. The next question we have is: do you prefer physical or digital cards?
I mean, I want to hold cards. Shuffling cards is like almost like a habit of mine. Just a deck of playing cards. I will sit there and shuffle for hours. I love physical cards. Love that. But there's something great about digital cards for PvP games. I don't have to wait. I don't have to set up my Yu-Gi-Oh deck and play it against a nothing anymore. I just get to play against a person. So I love physical cards. I prefer them, but there's something really great about digital cards.
Wonderful. Hey, you remember that surprise question we talked about? Well, tell me, what is your deal with Cyndaquil?
Cyndaquil was the first Pokemon I ever got. This Silver. It's my first game. I released my first Cyndaquil thinking that it would follow me around. I was like, that's how you get to have the Pokemon out of the ball. So I restarted my game. Of course, didn't just turn it off and go back to my last save because I was a child. So I started the game over. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite Pokemon. My favorite Pokemon is actually Porygon 2. So it's not even Cyndaquil, but I do adore Cyndaquil. And it's what really started my like video game and card game journey is Pokemon. So Syndical is kind of a nod to that.
Wait, I had a follow-up question. If you don't mind me asking, tell me if you do. What is your age?
I turned 30 just a little over a week ago.
I'm so surprised that you started at not red, blue, yellow.
We didn't have any like video games until I was like 8 or 9 or 10. Like the first game I ever played was Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Got it well after it had been out for a long time, and then we had that and like a couple other games, and then I think the next year I got a Game Boy Color and Silver, and that was the first handheld game I ever got.
I'm getting ready to have my gamer card revoked here, but as much as I know about this game, I've never played Ocarina of Time.
It's a good game. It holds up. You can certainly play it now. Obviously the graphics are dated, but the gameplay is fun. The story is not too bad. Donde is gonna revoke your gamer card though for sure. That man plays that game nonstop.
Yep, I have not picked it up once. So that, but like I said, I know a lot about it. I know pretty much everything that happens in the game.
Just go to Breath of the Wild. It's the best Zelda game, and it's not close.
It's a classic, though.
It is
a
classic.
It's
really
actually, I'm really about to turn over my gamer card because I have
breaking my heart.
Never played a Legend of Zelda game front to back.
They got good games. They do have good games.
I wasn't a Legend of Zelda is Nintendo specifically, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I can say I wasn't a Nintendo kid, but I had Super Nintendo and a Nintendo 64. But after that, I never had another Nintendo until I got like the Game Boy, and I just had like Pokemon. The only thing I played was Pokemon on that thing. Mm-hmm. And that could be said about the DS too. Like I tried to play like a Dragon Ball Z game, and it was just like, I'm just gonna play Pokemon. So yeah, I never got to everything else was PlayStation, and I had a Sega Dreamcast. But after that, I was a PlayStation guy forever. So I never played a Zelda game. I never played a Halo game. I never played any Xbox exclusive. Hadn't played it.
Yeah, I was Nintendo all the way. Like my parents, I wasn't allowed to watch a PG-13 movie until I was 13. No M games like ever, So Nintendo was sweet spots like Animal Crossing, Pokemon, and Zelda. Like that's what I grew up on.
That's fair. I was Pokemon, Mario, and Pokemon again.
Yeah.
And that super hard Lion King game for Super Nintendo. Why was that game so difficult? I'm an adult and I can't beat that game. That's crazy. So sorry, random. Y'all gotta stop. I just go on random tangents. Y'all gotta stop me. But Base, where can we find / follow you? I know you're not super active on socials, but what do you got?
On Discord, I'm in plenty of places. If you see me, say hi. I'd be happy to chat. On Twitter, I'm basedinc. On Twitch, I think I'm basedinc HS, and I actually got a stream card so I can actually stream my Switch. So I think I'm gonna start doing that. That seems something more fun. I'll do some shiny hunting Pokemon and some stuff on there. So gotta talk to Azalea, see about getting a VTuber, get the hookup. But so I am actually planning on doing a little bit more. Just kind of shiny hunting is a little bit boring, so get some company.
Yes, I will be there if that happens. Like, sign me up. I'm gonna hang out. That sounds amazing. Base streams, let's go.
Base streams.
Yeah, maybe play a little Hearthstone. Maybe play some board games. Got lots of digital board games on Steam. That, of course, I have the entire physical one as well. Why not own it twice? Maybe on the Switch too. Why not own it 3 times? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, anything else that we want to cover? Do you want me to do the closing stuff, Itachi, or?
I erased it, but I'll still do it just because I didn't get to do it.
Yes, go for it.
All right. Thank you, Dawn. I'll close this out. Thank you for joining us this week. And if you or someone you know would like to join us on the podcast, please reach out. You can email us at tccgroundtable@protonmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/TCCG Roundtable. Use our top pinned tweet for a link to our Discord. Feel free to talk about anything in there. We've got channels for everything. And if you don't, I'll make one. Or you can use the link in the description/show notes. Check out the video version on dragonrider's personal YouTube at youtube.com/c/dragonrider TCCG. We are everywhere you can find audio podcasts. And also linked in the show notes is going to be our Inked Gaming affiliate link. Check out Inked Gaming. They've got custom playmats, custom dice, custom boxes, custom everything. And then they're also really good quality. So you can get a subscription box. You can get a one-time buy. Inked Gaming is really awesome. Check out our affiliate code. Help support the podcast. You can find us individually at twitter.com/Itachi_HS or dragonrider at twitter.com/DawnyDK. That's it. We're out. Back to Dawn with the weather. Dawn.
That's all right. Thanks, Itachi. So weather is looking like a bunch of expansions, and we are in 2023. We also have some great guests that we are starting to get lined up, so ahead of time. So look forward to that. Thank you all so much for joining us this week, and we will see you at the roundtable.
Bye.